Salvete discipuli. It was brought to my attention that some of you were wanting a little extra practice, a little bit extra guidance on the substitution of nouns for pronouns portion of your study guide. And especially since so many of you were gone today, I wanted to go ahead and get this done. So let's go ahead and talk about how this is going to work. We're just going to practice this a bit. So first off, in order to do this, you need to know your endings from second declension and first declension. So this is just your declining we will go with us, o. And we're stopping right now because the only pronouns we know are singular. So we're not going on to the second half of that chant. Feminine, I, we're stopping there. Neuter, e, o, are neuter singular. Okay, now for this test, we're only going to focus on the nominative and accusative endings. That's why they're highlighted in green here. So nominative, masculine us, feminine a, neuter Accusative, masculine feminine neuter Reminder, nominative is what's used for the subject or the predicate. So what's on the other side of a linking verb, like he is a boy, that would be your predicate, boy. Or accusative is used for the direct object. So who or what is being verbed. Okay, so here's the rundown on how to work out what pronoun you need to substitute. Reminder, your nominative pronouns are is, ea, id. So that would be he for is, ea is she, id is it. So he, she, it. So if you have a noun that's ending in us in your sentence, you're going to 99 times out of 100, and we're not dealing with any of those exceptions that aren't the case right now. So right now, if it ends in us, you're going to be replacing it with the pronoun is. So us words become is. Words that end in a are going to be feminine, so they get replaced to ea, she, she. And neuter words ending in get replaced with id. Okay, so is, ea, id, he, she, it, us, a, masculine, feminine, and neuter. So that's all for the nominative, so if it's the subject of your sentence. If you are looking at the direct object of your sentence, masculine ending changes to the pronoun eum, him. That's in your vocab list, so you should be really comfortable with that, meaning him. Feminine ending becomes eam, also in your vocab list. And neuter ending becomes id, also in your vocab list. So the accusative is actually a tiny bit easier for you guys because it's been in your vocab list this whole time, whereas is, ea, id, you were just expected to learn it as part of the chart. Okay, so let's put this into practice. So I've got down here at the bottom that exact same two charts we were just looking at, it, nominative and accusative. Let's start off with a sentence. This is very similar to the kind you'll have on the test. Marita filium nominat. So even if you have no idea what these words mean, you should because they're on your vocab list, but even if you had no idea what this sentence meant, you can still work out what you need to do here. So Marita ends in an a. So your feminine word is the one that ends in a, which makes sense. Marita means wife, so of course it's feminine. And we see that the pronoun we go to is ea, which makes sense too because it's she. So Marita filium nominat becomes ea filium nominat. Okay, so we just took the word that had the feminine ending and substituted it with the feminine pronoun. Okay, now if we choose to underline the other word, Marita filium nominat, well, we have to think a little bit harder here because ends up in the neuter nominative or the masculine or neuter accusative. So we're looking at either id, if it's a neuter noun, or if it's masculine. This one you do kind of need to know the word. Filium means son, and its normal form is filius. So us is normally masculine, so that tells us that filium is masculine. But also just knowing that it's son gives you the ability to safely guess that it's masculine. So if it is masculine, the only thing it can be is the accusative form, right? Because this is the only place we have the masculine ending So that means that the pronoun we need is eum, which again makes sense. Filium is son, and he's being named, so we need him. Marita filium nominat, the wife names the son. Marita eium nominat, the wife names him. Maritus feminam maritat. So here's an extra review word that you guys have definitely had before. Femina is a woman. So if you look at your ending there, even if you don't know that word, am is the only option is feminine accusative. So that means that the pronoun you're using is ayam. Another little trick for some of these, for the masculine feminine and feminine a endings, all you're doing is taking the ending that's already on the word above it and just replacing it with the letter E in front. So instead of feminam, we just have ayam. So short little word starts with E, and then you take the same ending. So maritus feminan maritat, the husband marries the woman. Maritas eyam maritat, the husband marries her. One more on this slide. Maritus, now we're going to replace maritus, feminam maritat. Words that end in us, only one option. Words that end in us go to is. So maritus feminam maritat, the husband marries the woman. Is feminam maritat, he marries the woman. Simple as that. Okay, let's talk about some of this neuter confusingness with the being also masculine. Now, the good news is if you know it's neuter, it doesn't matter which case it's in, it's id both times. So that's nice. The trick is just to know if it's masculine or neuter. Crustulum Germanam adoptat. Now, I will tell you right off, this is definitely a cheat. You need to eventually know more neuter nouns, but currently in this unit, the only neuter noun we've been using that I expect you to recognize that it's a neuter noun is crustulum. So basically, if you see crustulum and that's the underlined word, you already know what you have to do because you know it's the only neuter noun. So it has to be id. So crustulum Germanam adoptat. Now let's just, for the sake of practice, let's check here. Crustulum, if we didn't know it was neuter, we could say, okay, well, it could be accusative masculine or neuter, could be the subject or it could be the direct object. But if we look over here at Germanam, can only be a direct object. And we don't usually have two direct objects unless there's a word like and with them. So that's kind of giving you a really big clue that crustulum is your nominative. If crustulum is nominative, then you're left with only the option of it being neuter. And so then you can deduce that it's id. So it's a little bit more work than if you just memorize that crustulum is neuter, but it is another way to approach it, and it is doable. So crustulum Germanam adoptat. We replace crustulum with id, it. Id Germanam adoptat. So the crustulum adopts the sister. Why not? Id Germanam adoptat. It adopts the sister. Okay. If I have Germana crustulum adoptat, gets a little more complicated. If we look at our first word, Germana, currently based on our options, that can only be nominative singular. So we have our subject. So crustulum is not a subject. So it's not this neuter nominative form. So now we're left with either the accusative, eum, or the neuter The only way you're going to know for sure is by knowing that crustulum is a neuter noun. This is why we have been, since 5th grade, seeing genders listed next to nouns when you learn them. Because of stuff like this, you're not going to know which pronoun goes with it unless you know what gender the word is, and you can't always tell what gender the word is just by looking at it. So crustulum is still neuter. It's always neuter. Neuter always goes to id. Germana id adoptat. So the sister adopts the cookie. The sister adopts it. All right, just a couple more, and then I'll let you guys go. So maritus filium adoptat. So here we have another So again, our options would be either neuter nominative, masculine accusative, or neuter accusative. However, let's look at our other word, maritus. Us can only be nominative. So if we've got a subject, we know filium cannot be the subject. So maritus adoptat, the husband is adopting filium. Now you need to apply. We know it's accusative, but we have to know if it's masculine or neuter. Filius is a son, so it's going to be masculine. Also, I just told you a few minutes ago, the only neuter word that we're using in this unit is crustulum, and this is not crustulum, so it cannot be neuter. Okay, so maritus filium adoptat, we need to look at the masculine, and it becomes eium. So maritus filium adoptat, the husband adopts the son. Maritus eium adoptat, the husband adopts him. Last one. Quid est maritus? That was supposed to be quis. That's a typo. So quis est maritus? Who is the husband? Or what is the husband? Okay. In this case, because I typoed that, that should be QIS. All right. So maritus, look at your ending. Us is masculine. So it becomes is. Quid est is? What is he? I guess maybe he's a monster. I don't know. All right. So that is it on the pronouns. Hopefully that helped clarify things for you guys and will allow you to work through those questions on your study guide a little bit more clearly. We will, of course, go over and answer any questions that you guys have in class. So, walete.